All right.
Good. All set.
Well, thank you, Betsy. Okay, today I'm going to talk about how Eventbrite can be a useful tool for your organization. I know Betsy utilized this to set up the registration for the meeting, so many of you have at least used it once if you were the one that signed up for your organization. Eventbrite is a ticketing platform that is great for nonprofits. Fees are built into transactions, so there's no annual fee or any commitment. We've used Eventbrite for almost 4 years now for our music series ticketing. But my educational programs pre-COVID were all in person and free to the public, so they didn't require pre-registration and there was no need for me to utilize Eventbrite. Once the pandemic began and everything shut down, I had to switch my educational programs to an online format or cancel them altogether, just like most organizations. Through a grant, we were able to purchase a subscription for Zoom webinars. As a side note, I know Zoom can be costly. If it's out of your budget, maybe see if another organization in your community would be willing to collaborate with you to co-host your Zoom webinars. We collaborate with the Cuyahoga Valley Civil War Roundtable to host their programs as well. They have a much smaller budget than ours, and we just thought it was a neighborly thing to do during the pandemic. Now, if you already have Zoom, then you know that you can have people register right to Zoom itself. So why go through an extra step of using Eventbrite? One word: donations. As of right now, Zoom cannot accept donations through their registration process. My educational programs have always been free to the public, but we had a donation box when we met in person. By routing my registrants through Eventbrite, we could add an additional ticket for donations. You can even add more than one donation item. For example, we also co-host a lecture series with the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So for that event, we have a donation option for the Peninsula Foundation, as well as for the Conservancy for the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. All donations come to us, and in the payout, then I send them a check for their donation after the event. There are several tutorials on how to actually set up Eventbrite events, so I won't go through the nuts and bolts on that with you right now. But let me give you a general overview of features and some tips that we've learned from it. All right, on that first slide there, you can see your main dashboard. All of your upcoming events are on here, but if you want to look at info from previous events, just go to the Event Status tab and select Past Events. Past events will give you all the information that your bookkeeper will need to record the event. But for now, we'll just click on one of these for more information. Next slide, please. Each event has its own dashboard too. This is a great way to see how ticket sales are doing and donations received. You can see my ticket types here, the main event, which is entitled March Lecture, and you can see the 2 types of donations. From here, if you click on one of the links to the left under Sales by Ticket Type, you can edit the ticket information for that ticket itself. However, you most likely want to see who has registered or donated, so to get there, you need to click on the blue numbers under Sold. Next slide. So from this page, you can see the names and donors, although I've cut the names out for obvious purposes, as well as how folks found you, your event under traffic. From anywhere on your dashboard, your main event dashboard, you can utilize items in the menu to the left. Manage attendees on the lower left side is a great tab. From here, you can do all kinds of things, such as see and print out a list of attendees for your event, add attendees who did not pay through Eventbrite for no charge, have a guest list to add people like music comps or other gratis guests, check-in guests with a computer on a smartphone through the app. You can even make name tags. I haven't needed to use this feature yet, but it seems like really cool and thorough. Betsy, if you ever get a chance to use it, let me know how you like it. One very important thing to do for managed guests, though, is to review your emails to attendees tab for every event. Eventbrite has 3 default emails to send: 2 days before the event, 2 hours before the event, and 10 minutes before. You can also change that frequency if you prefer different times. I recommend going into each one and customizing it after creating your event and including your Zoom link for each one. Attendees can also find it if they log into Eventbrite, but I find putting it out there in multiple ways helps some of our less computer savvy guests find it on their own without having to ask for help. Other tabs are available are marketing, which has all kinds of resources, including email invitations, paid social ads that are available, tracking links and pixels, and much more. Well, not much more, but more nonetheless. The reports tab has all kinds of reports to track your attendees by ticket type, geography, what kind of device they made the purchase on or checked in on, and other analytics. So here are some helpful tips that we've come up with over the years that we've found. Make sure whomever needs to be the main admin for your organization on the account is set up as the primary user. Then others can be linked to that account. For our organization, both my executive director and I each have our own Eventbrite account. Hers is the main account and mine is linked to hers, so we can both create events, see payout information, etc. I like to register myself for the event as well. This enables you to receive the emails as your registrants do. If one of the emails has some erroneous info, it allows you to catch it and send out the correct information. If you do this, though, make sure to account that you are in the total if you have limited capacity. As of right now, Eventbrite is only doing payouts for after events. For bookkeeping purposes, and I do the bookkeeping for our organization, so I can attest to this, this is actually preferable and much easier to track than more frequent payouts. If you do need to refund tickets for any paid events and there are not enough funds in your net sales, Eventbrite just takes it off of a credit card that they have on file for you. Next slide. If you're going to use Eventbrite a lot, I recommend contacting them. They are really good about nonprofit pricing with much lower processing fees than for-profit businesses. So as you can see, once you've created your event, this is what people see, and they can click to register, they can see it's free, all the details, and what have you. Any questions coming in for my part before we move on?
No questions yet.
All right, then let's move on.
Yeah, up next we have Melissa Karman, who's been with the Sutliff Museum since 2011, first as an intern, then serving as an archivist from 2013 to 2014, and director since 2015. She received her MA in History and BA in Italian from Youngstown State University. She serves on the board of the Ohio Local History Alliance and has presented at conferences about archives, digitization, preservation, and program development.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Karman, and like every other organization, we closed our doors to the public in March 13th of last year, and we had to pivot our entire programming calendar. And there was a definite learning curve that we were dealing with. We were in the middle of our spring lecture series and had one in person, and then we had one scheduled for the month of March. After checking in with our speaker, we decided to move that program to Zoom, and it was our first time doing anything on Zoom. Thanks to the generosity of our speaker, Amanda, at the Oberlin Heritage Center and the use of their Zoom account, we were lucky enough to hold the presentation with over 20 participants. During a normal summer, the Sutliff Museum sponsors day trips to Victorian house museums or Underground Railroad sites. In lieu of our bus trips last year, we offered a digital series called Faces of Freedom, which was presented on YouTube. I worked with one of our volunteers from home and who helped research and create each of these videos. With the series, we created a slideshow in Canva and recorded the information with a voice recorder and added the recordings to the slideshow. Canva, which you see here, this is the dashboard for Canva. It's a wonderful site that does so much more than slideshows. I use it daily for the Sutliff Museum social media. Canva has a free option to get started, and then as a nonprofit organization, you can apply to get the pro version for free. With Canva, you can do Instagram posts, Facebook posts. You can also post directly to Facebook from Canva. So you don't have to download each of the files and then upload. So it makes it that much easier. We've been using it for our quarterly newsletters, and you can see some of our my recent designs down at the bottom. You can turn your slideshows into videos. So when you're saving them, you can save them as an MP4 with sound, with video, with animations if you have them. And the slideshow that you're seeing today was created on Canva. And if you have any questions with or pertaining to Canva, I can definitely answer that. Fast forward to the fall, even though we opened our doors to the public in August, we were still not able to hold in-person events. When searching for speakers for this series, I contacted a lot of people from outside traditional speakers bureaus. And I only had one who responded. Pictured here is Kate Armstrong. She's the producer of the Explore Us podcast, and she is based in Melbourne, Australia. She was excited to do the program as her subject fit right in with our series. And the biggest challenge was dealing with the 16-hour time difference. So after a lot of emails and a lot of talking back and forth, we decided to push our normal start time of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. and that made it 8 a.m. the next day in Australia. So we started out with a recorded version of her presentation because it was so early in the morning for her, and we ended it with a live question answer session with Kate. All of this we did through Zoom, and we streamed it to Facebook Live. For our Zoom programs, we required our participants to register, and this saves us from the random people that may pop in and ruin our program for everyone else. The Zoom sessions are recorded and then uploaded to YouTube for people to view later. And on the next slide is our YouTube channel, and we do have several other videos that we've done throughout from last summer up until our spring lecture series this year. So we continued this process for our spring lectures, and it's getting easier, but we do miss seeing everybody in person. In April, we will be rolling out our first virtual exhibit titled "A Million Ways to Die in the 19th Century." And this exhibit is featuring 6 short videos and 2 longer presentations. The videos will be available on our website under the exhibit tab and on the Sutliff Museum's mobile app, as well as our YouTube channel. The shorter videos were recorded on my iPhone and then edited using iMovie on my laptop. As with the beginning of the pandemic and learning to do Zoom and streaming everything, video editing was also a learning experience, which I really enjoyed. And working with my assistant, Beverly, who researched this, the virtual exhibit, we had a lot of fun, especially with the final products of the videos. So I can't wait to share them with everybody starting next month. And that's all I have right now, unless there's any questions.
No questions yet.
Okay.
Yeah, our next presenters are Barb Piscopo, the Executive Director at the Lorain Historical Society, and Jenn McManamon, I hope I said that right, the Children's and Education Curriculum Coordinator at the Lorain Historical Society.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Both Jen and I are sharing the screen today. So I'm Barb Piscopo. I'll just identify that part. I think that many of you who are participating today are very excited about learning from one another to see different ways that you have dealt with situations and engaging with your communities during COVID. I'm thrilled because I learned something both from Becca and from Melissa that I know we will begin to implement pretty much as soon as we call, because I really was excited to hear about the Canva opportunity as well as the event. We've been wondering how we could get people to make a donation. So both of those were really cool. I also know that our organization is a little bit larger than some of yours, but I do have to tell you that all of the things that we did to pivot during last year were done very, very inexpensively and really can be done by no matter what size of museum you are or historical society. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging with us older folks, so you do need the help of people who are a little bit younger and might be a little bit more familiar with different kinds of technology. But one thing I found from my 8 or 9 years with the museum community is that we're all really willing to share. So if there's something that is presented as part of this presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to give you an assistance with what we've done. I found here at the Lorain Historical Society that we went into 2020 with this amazing calendar of events to deal with the 19th Amendment, which was our theme. And we had our first presentation in February with the founder of the Girl Scouts, done through the Lakewood Women's Group, Women in History. It was our only in-person event for last year for our adult programming. So no sooner did we start that COVID hit, and we kind of put the brakes on absolutely everything. We did do a lot of things via Zoom after that, and did upgrade our Zoom subscription from the $10 a month personal subscription to the $40 a month subscription, which allowed us to do a few more things. But probably where we saw the most creativity and flexibility is in our children's programming. And so I'm going to quickly turn this over to Jenn McManamon, who is our children's curriculum coordinator, so that she can talk about what it was that she did for our young people here in Lorain.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. I started with the Lorain Historical Society right before COVID kind of came into our lives. And I had so many grandiose plans for spring break camp, for field trips. We do a third grade. Sorry about that. Okay.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Andy, can you hear better now?
Hello? Hi. Technical difficulties. If somebody could just let me know if the volume is better, I would appreciate that.
It's better.
A little, turn it up. You're better now. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Speak into this. So I'm not sure when I cut out, but long story short, I do all of the I write all of our curriculum for our students, roughly grades 1 through 5 is kind of our target audience. We work closely, particularly with the third graders, as the state standards for Ohio that really focuses in third grade on community and community history. So that's kind of our sweet spot. Like I said, when I first started here, we had plans to host several hundred third graders on a really fun field trip that I reworked and was all excited for. We had spring break camp sold out, and then the world kind of came to a crashing halt. So we needed to look at how we could reach 1, the kids, and 2, teachers, and 3 other community members as best we could with the restrictions that were in place. So the first thing that we did back in March, the end of March, was we developed a rollout of this COVID time capsule, and we put it on our Facebook page. We found that relying on social media was an easy way for us to remain engaged with our students, our community members, and our teachers. So we kind of presented this time capsule, it being appropriate that we were a historical society. Like I said, we did a Facebook Live where we engaged the kids. I went through the time capsule pamphlet and encouraged them to kind of be a part of history. We walked through it and tried to engage family members to participate in the program as well. So that was the very first thing I did back in March, to kind of poise ourselves as a resource, as a reference, as a historical society to everyone at home. The second project that we rolled out was again presented on our social media, and we collaborated with the Lorain Historical Society and the Oberlin Heritage Club, Lorain County Historical Society. And this was kind of something, this project, Seniors from Seniors, evolved from my own personal situation at home, where I have my mother who lives with us, and I had a senior in high school last year who was really missing out on a lot of the senior activities, prom, graduation, things like that. And when I looked at my work life, I saw that the same was happening in our community. We serviced a lot of folks who were in nursing homes or, in their own homes without much interaction. So we developed this letter exchange program that was very successful. So we were able to put together students and seniors to kind of share their experience of COVID, and for the senior citizens to help maybe give some pearls of wisdom or advice to our seniors who would be entering the next stages in their life. So that was kind of a neat community program that we rolled out. And again, it was simple to do, posted on social media. We used the U.S. Postal Service to send and receive the letters that were exchanged, and it was just kind of a nice community outreach program that we did. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm trying to go kind of chronologically here. We had a huge summer camp planned for our students, and we weren't really sure if we would be able to do it or not. So we looked to our Lorain County Health Department for some guidance as to how we could service some sort of a camp for these kids who haven't seen their friends, who weren't able to participate in sports, whose lives were kind of stifled. So we came up with this idea to have a mini summer camp for friends and families only. So we presented this, we did advertise some in the newspaper, and again relied heavily on our social media presence to promote this camp, and it sold out within 48 hours from the time that we rolled it out. So we were really happy with that, and that just kind of proved that we certainly, there was a need for something like this. So we had camps, they ran for 6 weeks, 2-hour time frames with up to 4 children within kind of that COVID pod. We had cousins participate, we had baseball teammates participate, and we were able to roll out a lot of good lessons while having a lot of fun, we went outside as much as we could. We followed the health protocol in terms of taking temperatures and washing hands, social distancing, mask wearing. So that was something that we were able to do. And it was great to be with kids and for them to see them to be able to be with each other. That was kind of a nice experience for all of us. Then after summer, when we took a look at, okay, there's so many schools that we service, some are in person, some are hybrid, some are strictly online. How are we going to help everyone really with some good curriculum, some good content? So that's when we took a look at rolling out lessons on a Google Slides, in a Google Slides format. And the first lesson that we did was rolled out in September, and we did it in collaboration with Oberlin College, El Centro, community group, and I compiled a list. I think there were 18 slides. There was an interactive piece, and all of the lessons are aligned with state standards. So when we went to teachers and leaders and we said, what's the easiest way that we can help you? What kind of wraparound services or supplemental services can we offer you as a historical society? And that's found that many teachers were relying heavily on Google, Google Classrooms, Google Docs, things like that. So that's when we decided, okay, let's format this so we could meet teachers where they are in terms of reaching their students. So the first Google lesson was this Latino Lorain project, and it was so well received. We reached over 10 different districts, not schools, but districts. And we estimate that we were also able to reach around 700 students with this particular presentation. So again, looking at the power of the pivot, we were certainly able to cast our nets further and wider than we ever would have this in person. So that's definitely a benefit and a strength that we saw in pivoting to offering lessons online or virtually. And this held true when we rolled out the lesson. You could see here on the slide, the Toni Morrison lesson. So we had a lot of contacts that loved our presentation for Latino Lorain, but we said, okay, let's do it again. So we provided the Toni Morrison lesson in February, and again, it was so well received and so utilized. So looking at some subjects that are unique to Lorain, however, could be applicable to other places, was kind of key in rolling out these lessons that we were able to provide. Teachers were so receptive because they were so hungry for some decent content to supplement what they were doing either in their classroom or online. So we were happy to provide that. And once we realized the need for more lessons like this, we developed a subscription that we are in the process of rolling out that has 5 lessons that, again, are steeped in Lorain history, however, applicable really anywhere. So that's where we are right now. And in terms of, we look at pros and cons of virtual lessons. The con is obviously we miss the kids. They deserve to be able to have meaningful, engaging experiences. But right now that's difficult to do. There's nothing that would substitute in-person learning. However, the next best thing is something like this. And the biggest benefit that I would say we've seen in rolling these lessons out is certainly the reach that we were able to grasp because of the simple kind of click and play aspect to the lessons. So that's what we've been doing here at the Historical Society. And if there are any questions, I can take them or we can move on.
No questions yet, but I do have a few questions for all of our presenters while we wait for some to come in. What has the feedback been like for your online programs, and do you collect any of that formally, or is it all informal?
Most of ours has been informal. There has been no real comments on our YouTube channel, but after the Zoom programs, people have been loving the topics. But I guess an informal way of judging the feedback is how many views we've had on certain videos. And certainly the 19th century woman program that we did with Kate had a lot of views.
We've also just done informal feedback and reviews. Most people just send me emails the next morning saying, you know, if they really liked it, or we broadcast ours to Facebook Live, so we get feedback on there. And the benefit of that I really like, so that it's more than just the Zoom. You have your registered attendance, but then it kind of lives on, and people, if they missed it, then they can go back on our Facebook page and rewatch it, and that's been a really nice thing to have.
I agree.
Our feedback has also been informal, and the most direct feedback we get is from our classroom teachers, and that's just, again, kind of emailing back and forth. Because it is a Google slide, I can see when somebody is on and utilizing it, so that's kind of a nice feature, and that's just through the link.
I have another question. I know it was touched on with the Eventbrite, but do you charge for any of your programs? And if so, how do you collect those fees?
You know, that was something that it occurred to me after my presentation to talk more about the fees. When you have a ticket, you have the Eventbrite fee that they charge to the person, and then they have what they charge for the organization for processing. And you can actually set it up through Eventbrite that you can absorb all the fees, which we don't do, or you can roll them all over onto the ticket purchaser, which seems like maybe not the right thing to do, but it's so nominal, really. I mean, it's never more than $1 or $2. And I think we've maybe had one person ever complain and say, oh, well, I'm just going to send a check in. Like, okay, that's fine if you want to. But I mean, if you have a credit card processor, they're going to charge fees. And the really nice thing that Eventbrite does is if one is a donation, they only charge the fees to the person, the purchaser, and they don't charge the organization any fees. So you don't have to you don't pay any of that. You get whatever your full payout is, and they pay the fees for their transaction, which is really nice.
Yeah, we haven't charged for any of our events yet. We usually don't charge, but I really wanted something for donations. So thank you, Becca, for sharing Eventbrite.
It's been a game changer. And like I said, we do have programming that we do charge for, but for the Civil War lecture series and the history of the Cuyahoga Valley lecture series, I've really worked hard over the years to have it be grant funded so that it can be accessible to the public, that anyone can come. And even before this, I was like, you know, you don't have to register, just show up. We'll have a good time. We'll learn something. It'll be awesome. But so we have needed to register so nobody bombs our Zoom meetings, but it's it's been a learning experience for sure. How many people are absolutely sometimes want to rip their hair out with dealing with Zoom though? It's not inherently hard, but there are so many pieces that if one thing is missing, it's utter chaos. So not to steer anybody away from it, but I definitely recommend doing, I think with almost all of my speakers, I end up doing like a test Zoom so that they feel comfortable with it. We feel comfortable that they're doing it. And once you get your settings lined up that you know all the things, it's much more smooth sailing, but there's a learning curve for sure. Like I said, it's not hard. There's just so many ducks you have to have in a row or it doesn't.
Yeah, especially when you want to stream it live to Facebook. I find that there's a lot that you need to fill in order to get it up on there. So
For sure.
yes.
So I'll just add, we did not charge for our Zoom programs, but with Becca showing us about Eventbrite, maybe we will in the future. We are charging for the subscription series that Jen referred to for children, and we're making that available through our website. And I would invite any of you that might be interested in one of Jen's lessons, either the Toni Morrison lesson or the Latino Lorain lesson. You see her email there on the screen. Those we sent out free of charge. So if you're interested in seeing more what that looked like, please email her and she'll be happy to send it along to you.
Okay, I've got one more question for you. What benefits did you see from having virtual programs, and were there any disadvantages?
Well, I can say for us, and I'm sure Melissa can attest, I mean, just the accessibility of having, our farthest person registrant away has also been Australia. So, I mean, you've got international reach, and our venue only holds 100 people. So it greatly improves and for who we can reach. But on the flip side, I have a dear, sweet 89-year-old lady who has come to almost every single lecture for the first 9 years of it. And she has a computer, but she's not that savvy. And so we've lost her, and my audience definitely skews older. And most people have adapted, but we've lost some, and that really breaks my heart because I mean, accessibility is, it makes it more accessible for others and less accessible for others, which I guess it's always going to be that way. You can't really have it both ways, but pluses and minuses.
Yeah, that's a definite minus because most of our volunteer base and most of our participants are older. And I've been working with my assistant on trying to figure out how to make it accessible because I know some of them are living in assisted living facilities. So maybe we could work with those, but that's been something that's in the process of doing. But yeah, definitely advantage is getting people that are not local, and the fact that we had Kate from Australia doing that program, it was wonderful. And I'm going to do a plug for her. If you are interested in all things women, her podcast is called The Exploress Podcast, and you can find it on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you can get podcasts. I'll put it in the chat. But she does, it's hilarious. She does put humor in it. So if you have a chance, check her out. But yeah, the learning curve, and I miss seeing our people in person. That's for sure.
I think we would agree with whatever Becca and Melissa said. I think it's the same. Great reach, but we just don't miss seeing some people.
And I also think for children, like I mentioned, that zone of proximal development, like there's nothing like having them in front of you to have engaging back and forth dialogue as opposed to, just a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions.
Nope.